One of the original NASCAR Racing Weekly cast members is joining me for this video. Find out who it is next. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Professor Larry Mars, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about right now. We got Stewart-Haas Racing. They're shutting down at the end of the year. You got the whole talk around Kyle Larson's playoff waiver. Don't know if that's going to happen or not. Don't even know if Hendrick Motorsports today even submitted for a waiver. But we also have some stuff going on in the Xfinity Series. Austin Hill, he wrecked Cole Custer. He got fined $25,000. But why did he get fined $25,000 and Kyle Busch got nothing for the All-Star race? Who knows? But to talk about this with me, I have one of the OGs from NASCAR Racing Weekly, one of the NASCAR Racing Weekly's alums. Eric Lester is here with me. Eric, you were always my person to go to when I needed to fill time on the show. I said, Eric,
right.
I need 10 minutes. No problem. And I usually had to end up cutting 5 of it. So
right, yeah.
So
that's usually how it works.
Usually, yeah, exactly. So let's get into some topics here going on with NASCAR. You are a Tony Stewart fan, admittedly. Yep. It's one of your many faults. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But what were your thoughts when you heard the news that Stewart-Haas Racing was shutting down?
Well, when the initial announcement came out for the shutdown, there's been an expectation of some sort of something with Stewart-Haas. Now, I never expected them to just shut it. So that there was a level of devastation involved with that for me. Like you said, I'm a Tony Stewart fan. He came into sport in '99. I was with him until 16 when he retired. Immediately transitioned to the Clint Boyer, and then he kept up with Chase Briscoe now. It's been a multi-year, let's just say, fandom for me. So, like I said, there was a level of devastation. But at the same time, I kind of knew it was coming. I knew something was coming. You had to figure out where the shift and the shake was going to be. And it turns out it's the whole organization.
Were you just expecting maybe 2 charters to go away and to keep at least 2 or 1 and even a Xfinity Series, or was that your expectation for that?
Well, there was so many things playing out there. I really thought they'd keep 2. There was talk. One of the strong rumors, and I was really behind this, is that Tony was going to sell 2 of them to his best buddy Junior, Dale Jr. And Tony was going to flip back to Chevy, and then Junior, and Stewart-Haas would form the technical alliance. And the plan, the way I read it, was going to be for Briscoe and Barry to stay. Noah Gragson would shift back to DEI. Allgaier would come up. That would technically be the 4. And then Priest would be out of a ride, and Priest would be out of a ride, and then Custer and Riley would shift to Junior's Xfinity program. Now, I was super excited for that, and I kept waiting, going, "Hey, let's get this one." But it didn't, and I just kept thinking something's weird, and I knew, and everybody's talking about Gene Haas is wanting to concentrate on F1. Cool. And Tony's got him a smoking hot wife, as they call it.
Right.
And he wants to spend time with her. And
new career, too. He's doing pretty well in NHRA.
And he's got the NHRA, and she drives NHRA. So it's racing cars and being with your wife all at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So, and with $40 million per charter on the line, that's $160 million sitting there. Now, I don't know if that's what they're paying, but that's what seems to be the going rate for a charter is $40 million.
Right, exactly.
Plus they get to sell the building, plus they get to, maneuver this, that, and the other. I mean, we're talking $250 million here.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Do you think any type of money problems kind of played into this? I know they had some major sponsors leave. Hunt Brothers left. Anheuser-Busch took off. Smithfield left when Eric Amarola retired. Obviously sponsors they're at a premium, nowadays.
Yeah.
But do you think they had some money issues going in to the season?
Personally think um, I don't think there was money issues. I think the battle to get money may have just got to be too much because the cost of NASCAR is going up. The value of the brand is sliding. It's on a sliding scale. Now I'm not saying there's no value in NASCAR. It's the value of the brand,
Right?
and so you had a year-long sponsor in Smithfield that left. You had a year-long sponsor in Hunt Brothers. You had a year-long sponsor in Anheuser-Busch. That's 3 major sponsors that probably put, I don't know, 15 million each into the sport,
Right.
give or take.
Exactly.
10 to 15, let's say. And you can't just go out on the side street and find a $10 million sponsor. And, there's teams who have literally taken a 38 race schedule and sold it 2 races at a time. I don't think Tony and Gene Haas wanted to do that.
Right.
I don't think they care.
Exactly.
And when they did it this year, partially with Overstock and Harrison's and Sonny D, all that they had to do with Josh Berry, I think they threw their hands in the air and said, "That's it. We're not doing this anymore."
Right. Do you think that lack of sponsorship came from lack of star power? They went from, like you said, Clint Boyer. They had Kevin Harvick. They had Eric Amarola, which Eric really wasn't a huge star, but man, he was consistent. He was, he put the car up there up front. They got a lot of camera time because he was doing pretty well. Now you have drivers. Chase Briscoe's pretty good. He's probably in that area of Eric Amarola, but you have Josh Berry who struggled a little bit this year. Other drivers that struggled. Do you think the lack of star power at Stewart-Haas was kind of a problem?
Yeah, I think so. I think it goes back to the whole value of your brand. Kevin Harvick is a major value brand. Amarola brought a lot to the table. You look at Tony Stewart, he brought a lot to the table, but it's not the days where the owner is bringing in money necessarily.
Right.
I mean, unless you're a Hendrick or a Penske. But Briscoe, everybody thought Briscoe was going to explode onto the scene. He has not done that.
Right.
Ryan Preece was the next big thing until he got his next opportunity, and he hasn't done it. Gregson is the next big thing, as far as I'm concerned. He proved that by the fan vote at the Open. He'll get scooped up quick, and I think that whole deal will be scooped up quick. And Barry was supposed to flash onto the scene,
right,
for what he did in Xfinity for the last couple of years, and he just hasn't done it. There is a major transition between Xfinity and Cup now because the cars are not the same.
Right.
They're built different. They drive different. The horsepower is different. So you can dominate Xfinity. You're not going to come into Cup and just take it over.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
And I was kind of surprised when Josh Berry was named as Kevin Harvick's replacement because he was in that Cup car for Chase Elliott, and he didn't do all that great, in the Cup car. That was just something I didn't understand. I figured they would try to go for at least 1 star in the sport, try to bring in money, try to bring in sponsorships. I didn't understand that move, at all. So,
well, there's a balancing act of, do you go pay the vet? Do you get the next big thing and build it? I mean, that's in every sport. You talk about NBA people with the draft and the major free agents. You talk about NFL with the draft and the major, all of that. I think Tony and Gene Haas wanted to build. They wanted to build their guy, and Josh Berry was I don't want to say a raw talent, but he was moldable. He was a moldable talent.
I get that.
So they wanted to create a Stewart-Haas driver.
Mm-hmm.
See, Harvick came to him as Kevin Harvick. He did his thing. He did it masterfully. He's one of the all-time greats. And, you're not just going to go find another all-time great to take the spot.
Right.
So that was one of those situations where, let's use an NBA analogy, like the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James leaves. He goes to Los Angeles. You're not going to replace LeBron James.
Right.
You can find people to fill the void and create around that, but you're not replacing LeBron James.
Right.
We can go back to 98, talk about the Bulls and when Jordan left and stuff like that. It's all the same. So I really think that's what they want to do. And if you look at the roster of guys that Stewart-Haas has right now, between Priest, Briscoe, Gregson, and Barry, they're all young, moldable guys that I think they were Tony and Haas were trying to create a brand. And I don't know if you want to blame Ford or NASCAR or money or what, but something failed there and they don't want to start over. I think that's what it really boils down to.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned NASCAR. Tony and NASCAR have had a, how can I put it, tumultuous relationship at best. Do you think some of the things NASCAR's been doing and with, charters and changing the sport, playoffs, things like that, do you kind of see that as, Tony wanting to get out?
Maybe. Tony's never been one for the system, if you will. And we can outline a whole lot of reasons and a whole lot of places that occurred.
Right, exactly.
But I think there's a certain level of things now in NASCAR you're going to have to do in order to be a Hendrick, a Penske, a Gibbs, a 2311, those caliber. And it comes down to time, money, and manpower.
Right.
So, do you like their notice press release was very telling. This is a 365-day mentality sport, and you have to have all the people you have to have that exact same mindset. Well, you gotta have the desire to work 365. Then you got to find, with 4 teams, you're going to find about 250 people who have the exact same mindset, all of them. Because if one of them wants to work 364, they failed.
Right.
And then combine that with, the money it takes to pay 250 people for a 365-day commitment, basically. And I think all of that together failed. Now, is that NASCAR's fault? Probably. But at the same time, you could probably blame the economy. You can blame a global pandemic that has still not recovered certain aspects of the economy. I think, now I'm stepping out here. This is all me here.
Right.
I think you could blame Ford a lot. Because Ford did not keep up their end of the bargain to Tony and Stewart-Haas when he switched. He was promised top tier. He was promised to be the man because at the time, Penske was whatever.
Right.
Well, they never really did that as far as I'm concerned.
They had some good years. I mean, they had Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
He won the championship in a Ford, but after that, it was just kind of me.
Yeah, really, it was, and it was because I think more than anything, Penske started getting upset that he wasn't the man, and then so I don't know if there's a backward power struggle of like Penske and RFK and Stewart-Haas on the Ford banner, but it was incredibly interesting to me that at the first of this year, at the end of last year, starting the first of this year, that Ford made a spectacle. And NASCAR jumped right onto it, made a spectacle out of announcing Front Row Motorsports as a Tier 1 team.
Yeah, gotcha.
Which they totally deserve. This is nothing against Front Row.
Yeah, they've been running really, really well, especially it's I still call it restricted play, but it's it's restricted at racetracks.
Hey, our generation will call it restrictor plates for as long as we live.
Exactly.
I still call it the Busch series.
I do too.
I can't get out. I'll catch myself. I'll be like, "Hey, when's that Busch Xfinity race?"
Yeah, I still call it Grand National. I do. I really do.
Right.
Busch Grand National. That's what I call it.
But yeah, I think there was a lot to the Ford thing that there was that animosity because Tony has always been a GM guy.
Right,
You can go way back. He had Pontiac, then Chevrolet. He left Gibbs because Gibbs left Chevrolet.
They were going to Toyota, yeah.
Yeah, that was the reason he left. He said, "I'm not re-signing if I'm driving these Toyotas." So good for Tony.
Right.
I think one big thing is there was so much talk for a couple years, and you probably caught this, about Dodge coming back.
Right. Exactly.
And see, Tony drives Dodge is a Dodge guy, Mopar guy for NHRA, and his wife is too.
Right.
So there was this whole content of Stewart-Haas is going to bring Dodge back. Great, I love it. I'm a Dodge guy myself, but then it didn't happen. And it's so easy to say it's the perfect storm, but I think the perfect storm happened.
Right.
And I'm going to try to watch my language here. Dodge didn't come back to save Tony from Ford. He had to replace 3 major sponsors. He's got a group of young guys that's taking their time to succeed. NASCAR has a new level of commitment that you have to maintain. All of that created a perfect storm. And I think Tony and Gene just said, hell with it.
Yeah, we're done.
Why are we doing this? We're too old for this.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know if you know who Eric Estep is. He's another YouTube NASCAR guy. He was talking about lack of leadership on Tony and Gene's part. Now, I don't subscribe to this because they had people in place. They had people there to run the day-to-day operations, to make sure the cars got ready, to make sure everything was in working order. They had their other projects. Gene had F1. Tony had the NHRA. He had his wife and other things. What do you think about something like that it was just kind of a lack of leadership on their part?
Well, here's the thing. Roger Penske ain't at the racetrack every week.
Right.
Now, the flip side of that is, and I'm going to be very careful here, Jeff Gordon's at the track every week.
Right.
It's kind of hard to argue with Hendrick right now.
Exactly.
Unless you're Joe Gibbs, who's at the track every week.
Right. And some organizations work like that, where you can have a Jeff Gordon who's an employee. He's part owner of the 48, but he's an employee, and he's there doing the day-to-day operations and the racetrack operations. And then some organizations like Gibbs, the owner's there. So it's
So and you look at Colleague and Matt Colleague, and Chris Rice, those guys. You look at Trackhouse with Justin Marks.
Yes,
there it is. I'll put it out in a minute. I kept wanting to say Pitbull. I'm like, it ain't Pitbull.
I couldn't think of it either. So
Pitbull's just putting money on the car.
Exactly.
Anyway, yes, he owns it, but anyway, you look at the success those guys have had, and you look at the fact that the owners are there. And then you look at Stewart-Haas struggling, and you look at Gene Haas not at the racetrack, concentrating on F1. You look at Tony Stewart not at the racetrack every week, racing, dragsters. Can you draw a correlation? Probably. I hate to even say this, but you can draw a direct line of correlation almost to Michael Jordan coming to the racetrack and Tyler Reddick getting better.
Right. Good.
And now, and Michael Jordan ain't even a car guy.
No, he's not.
Just one of the owners.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's the perception of it all. If you're doing great in baseball practice, but your head coach ain't there to see it, did it really happen?
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it. Did it actually go down? Things like that. Briscoe goes and wins a race, and Tony ain't there. Well, what's he think of me? Right.
I don't know if that's it or not. He's just playing that card.
Exactly. Well, let's move on from
Okay.
Stewart-Haas. I think we covered everything that we needed to cover there. Kyle Larson this weekend had a chance to do the double. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans. The same storm system, if you can believe it, hit both Indianapolis and Charlotte. Delayed the start of the 500, by 4 hours. Kyle Larson chose to run the Indianapolis 500 over the 600. He did get to Charlotte, was putting on his gear before they red flagged the race due to rain. So he effectively missed the race, regardless of if he got in the car or not. After he got to Charlotte, he was still counted as absent, as I know about people being absent, being a college professor. So now he has to get a playoff waiver to get into the playoffs, because he as of right now, he is currently ineligible. A lot of talk saying that Kyle Larson doesn't deserve the waiver. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, okay, this is a very broad,
Very much so.
it's a very broad issue that's trying to be debated on a micro level.
Right.
But it's a macro problem.
Exactly.
So let's start macro here.
You can throw a ball and hit the side of this barn, and just one issue. That's all you would get. So
the macro problem is that the waiver system exists.
Exactly.
Period. I have long been a supporter of race the races. If you get in, you get in. However, should Kyle Larson with 3 wins, 3, 2, 3,
I believe 3,
whatever,
yeah, whatever,
3. Let's go with 3.
He's winning eligible. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah. Kyle Larson with 3 wins on the year. We're barely halfway. We're not even halfway, are we? No, we're not.
No, we're not. Almost, but not quite.
So, should he be punished because he missed a race for whatever reason? We'll get micro in a minute.
Right.
For whatever reason, versus a guy who basically is a field filler in a situation, who comes out and runs 30th every week, but runs all the races.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they proved the waiver system to be invalid.
I think so
when
too.
they gave one when they gave one to Chase Elliott last year.
Exactly.
The man was injured. He was injured not in a stock car,
mm-hmm.
doing something completely away from racing.
Right.
And it causes him to miss races. Well, I'm sorry. That's the very definition of you're not getting in.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Which he didn't. I mean, he couldn't win a race, and then he got suspended for right hooking somebody. But
Yeah, I love all sports. So I'm gonna go back to basketball for just a minute. Anthony Davis for the Lakers misses 30 games. The Lakers finish 11th. They're not gonna say we'll extend the play-in tournament because Anthony Davis was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. It don't work that way. It's tough luck and do better next time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think Chase Elliott should have got one last year, and it proved the entire inefficiency of the waiver system.
Right.
So the overall answer for me is throw the waiver system out. Let's not worry about it. If you run 35 races and get in, then get in.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just go, well, I'm not going to run Wilkesboro.
Right.
I know that's not this race. I'm not going to run Charlotte.
Right.
Whatever. You've got to validly have a reason to miss in order to stay in contention.
Exactly. And that's what the waiver system was for.
Right.
When they implemented the chase, was to make sure that everybody ran every race. If somebody comes to a race, Kyle Busch has 5 wins going into the chase. Well, I'm just not going to run Darlington. Darlington's not my track. Show up for the Southern 500, and I'm a Kyle Busch fan. I'm not, but let's say I am. Kyle Busch ain't there. I'm going to the house. So.
Well, and I don't want people to think I'm picking on Chase Elliott either. I don't think. Well, it's Chase Elliott again, but let me extend. I don't think Chase Elliott or Bubba Wallace being suspended for a race should have left them in contention either. Because if you're going to do something to the point that you have to be suspended,
right,
you should violate everything that not being in that race brings to you.
Exactly.
Whether it's a paycheck, an appearance, or a playoff way or a playoff spot. You screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in.
And for some reason, they've been giving waivers for suspensions. I don't know why.
Right.
But they have.
Yeah. Let's go back to Dwight Howard. Not Dwight Howard. Jeez. Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
If he was suspended for 30 games, he couldn't appeal to the league and go, I'm going to sit at home, but I still need my paycheck.
Right.
No, not how that works. Now, injury's different,
mm-hmm.
but which is what really happened. But if that was a suspension, let's go back to the Malice and the Palace, or Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
They were suspended without pay. They did not get paid for 30 games because they ran the crowd and punched somebody. That's how that works.
Exactly.
As far as I'm concerned. You're okay. You're a college professor. If you had an incident on campus with a student, what would they do? Suspend you, fire you, something.
Right.
You're not the benefits of being a college
professor.
I'm
going home. I'm cutting back to being a news photographer if they'll have me. That's what I'm doing. So
exactly. But now, having said all that, let's get down to the micro of it and Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, I think the overall answer here is yes, he deserves a waiver because NASCAR has set the precedence for him to get one.
Right.
They cannot suddenly change their mind on how they're doing this.
Exactly.
Because then he has every right to throw the biggest hissy fit grievance there is.
Exactly.
And,
I agree.
And would win it.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you had asked me yesterday morning, I would have said you're an idiot. But
probably.
But I have since changed my mind. I got to admit.
I've gone back and forth on this.
Yeah.
So, it's not a cut and dry situation. It's not an easy answer either.
Right.
But I think he does. I think he should get one because of the precedence NASCAR has set. I think to go with this situation itself, the amount of money, the amount of prestige, the amount of media that Larson put on this, that everybody put on this, NASCAR themselves put on him potentially running the double as arguably the best race car driver in the country, if not elsewhere.
Right.
There has to be an expectation by all parties involved that Larson's doing this for the greater good, and we cannot punish him for doing it.
Right.
And I think that's where I stand on that. Now, Sunday when he said, I'm not going to the 600, I was like, well, I don't think you should get to playoffs because you're willfully missing a race.
Exactly.
Just because you want to. But like I said, there's a macro and a micro, and you got to drill down to really get into this one with Larson.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer is he did so much for NASCAR on a dual level and potentially a global level for that matter.
Right.
By being in the 500 that NASCAR cannot punish him.
Exactly. I totally agree. Totally 100%.
Now,
also, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, now, if anybody wants to punish him for being an idiot because he sped while I'm in the top 5 of pit road,
and I think he was.
we'll be happy to do that. If I want to, we can bring back the dumbass of the week if you want. And because he went down pit road, I'm like, here it is. Here's the money stop, baby. But he sped. I'm like,
he did.
What are you doing?
Locked up the tire. Yeah, I get that. I get that. DA of the week. It's Kyle Larson.
Of all things for the NASCAR driver to mess up on an Indy car,
right?
It was the one thing you get right in NASCAR every time.
Exactly. I think also you have to look at Kyle Larson's intent. He did not skip the 600 to run Le Mans or go off to a late model dirt race. He had every intention of running the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Matter of fact, like I said, he showed up, was putting on his stuff when the red flag came out and they stopped it for rain. So I think NASCAR really has to take a look at intent, don't you?
Yeah, no, I think so too. It was not his fault. He didn't cause it to rain. He didn't cause the race start to be delayed 3 hours. It was not his intent. Now, the argument on the flip side of that is, well, his intent should be to race for the series for which he is employed. It can't. It is not that cut and dry. It
Right.
can't be that way.
Right.
Because I'm going back to basketball for a minute.
Go ahead.
Kevin Durant is playing for the Olympic team. If Kevin Durant falls and breaks his knee, the Suns are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
But the Suns can't go, you can't play for the Olympics. They can't put in the contract, you can't play for the Olympics.
Right.
Because it's outside their realm
Exactly.
of judgment. Kevin Durant, as an American, has a right to play for the Olympic team. That's just the rules. So with Larson going to Indy with the intent to run that and Charlotte, and it just didn't work, NASCAR's got to live with it, and part of living with it is going to be giving him the waiver.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. He deserves a waiver. Deserves to be, and not only for that, but you want to face the drivers.
Oh.
I think you want to face the best in the playoffs. You don't want you don't want a Kyle Larson missing the playoffs because of that. You don't want Denny Hamlin missing the playoffs because of something else. Of injury or whatever. You want to face the best when it comes to the playoffs. I'm not a fan of the playoffs. I kind of like the old Winston Cup point system. But. That's just me, but you want to face the best no matter what. So I think that's what they want to do.
Let me cover about 4 things right there. First of all, I like the playoffs. I think it needs tweaked. I think there's some ways it needs to be made better.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the same vein as you want your best drivers in the playoffs, and I know in this day and age of social media, there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions, and they have an avenue to express their opinions, and they probably shouldn't.
We're doing it right now.
Right. Exactly. We're taking advantage of that.
Exactly.
But if NASCAR wants to turn their sport completely around to all hell breaking loose and not in a good way, go ahead and tell NASCAR's most popular organization that arguably their most popular driver can't race because he went to the fight to try to win the Indy 500.
Right.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Plus, let me go Tommy Lester for a moment.
Uh-oh.
What a conspiracy theory that would be if we blocked Larson to try to get Hamlin a championship.
Oh, my goodness.
I literally read that earlier. Now, it wasn't Tommy that wrote it, but I was
Right.
they're going to keep Larson out so they can rig it for Denny. And I went,
Right.
oh, I was like, oh, God, there's more than one of these people.
Exactly. If you don't know, Tommy Lester is Eric's brother. He is another NASCAR Racing Weekly alum. And, he does have a conspiracy theory on Toyota. But that's another episode for another time. But I think...
That's volumes of episodes.
No, that's volumes of episodes. Exactly. So, so my last thing that I have for us to talk about, this past week in the Xfinity series, I didn't get to see it. I got to see the video. You had Austin Hill. He wrecked Cole Custer on purpose. Now, I don't know if Cole Custer did anything to him. I haven't seen video. I heard something happened down the backstretch there, but he wrecked him. He got into his left quarter panel, hit the gas, and turned him around. Fined $25,000, which I think that's very appropriate. Punishment for Austin Hill. Docked so many points. I think he lost the points lead. He's down 6 now or something or other. But do you find it a little bit hypocritical that NASCAR would fine him for doing the same exact thing that Kyle Busch did to Ricky Stenhouse at the All-Star race, and nothing for Kyle Busch?
Well, again, let's take some facets here. For decades, it has always been my understanding that the All-Star is all bets are off. As long as you don't have malicious intent, you're not trying to hurt people, things like that, the All-Star has always been all bets off. So Kyle Busch gets knocked around a little bit by Stenhouse, and Kyle goes up and puts him in the wall. Well, so be it.
Right.
Yeah. Sunday night short track racing, right? Is that what they say?
Yeah, exactly. Used to be Saturday, but now they hit it on Sunday for some reason.
Now, on that note, just for a moment, I totally agree with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Bar up the tunnels, make them stay if this is what we're going to get. And I know this wasn't the topic, but let me get to this real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It absolute absurdity that Ricky Stenhouse got fined. That was just two racing guys overboiling, and you got to settle it.
Exactly.
Now, Stenhouse's dad was a whole different story. The dude who tried to break into Richard the hauler, that guy deserved to be punished. All that, but Stenhouse and Kyle Busch in that moment, boys, let them fight. I mean, we don't need to have blood and broken bones. But Stenhouse throws one, let Kyle get another one in. The old schoolhouse theory. Don't break it up till they both get one in.
Right.
But then we're going to pull them both apart.
Exactly.
Let them get in. They're grown men.
Right. What do you think? What do you think Stenhouse was fined at? Do you think it was because he was there for so long and he could have had time to cool down a little bit and whatnot? Because you look at Noah Gragson and Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain did the same exact thing. Not a thing happened to him.
Right. I think. I think premeditation, if that's the word you want to use, was probably the moment, because that picture's getting famous where Stenhouse is leaning on the truck. And here comes Kyle Busch over. They take the picture. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
hilarious!
It's a meme maker at this point. My favorite one.
I thought of you when I saw the shorts. I gotta admit, I thought of you when I saw the shorts.
My favorite meme of it all is somebody had put the over top of Stenhouse standing there. It says, "My mom."
Right.
And then over top of Kyle Busch, it said, "Me when I come home after the street light comes on." I was like, "Oh, that's a good one."
That is real good one. Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, Stenhouse's dad had no place in that. He had every right to be fined, suspended indefinitely, like he was. And then the guys who tried to get into the truck, you can't do that. That's like breaking into somebody's office, as far as I'm concerned, whether it's a mobile office or otherwise.
Right.
Now, back to the original point here. Cole Custer, I need to say ahead of time, is a Stewart-Haas driver. So if this comes off biased, I'm sorry. It's not intended to.
Gotcha.
I would feel the same way if Custer did it to Hill.
Right.
They got a little wonky on the backstretch. Cleaned it up through 3 and 4, but then the tri-oval, the dog leg, they got back together again. Well, going into 1, it washed Custer up a bit, and so he faded up the track. Austin didn't give him any space, so they did one of these,
right,
and both kind of hit the wall. Well, they locked bumpers, and that's what you saw is Hill just keeping his bumper under it and floored it.
Right, exactly.
Now, the only part of that whole exchange that's really cool is the fact that it was at slower speed, and Cole Custer had time to get the thumbs up out the window. I love Cole. I mean, he's that little pipsqueak looking race car driver, but then when you hear him talk and you hear him see him race, you're just like, how can you not like that guy? But here's my overall statement on this.
All right.
Now, I'm about to go somewhere that you don't realize I'm going, and it's going to shock you.
It's not the first time.
I know. It's what I do.
It's what you do.
NASCAR, when Chase Elliott wrecked Denny Hamlin, they made a very large statement that said intentional contact to the back of the car while turning left is intent to wreck and is a suspendable offense. Austin Hill made direct contact to the back of the car, turned left, and wrecked Cole Custer. By definition, the reason Chase Elliott was suspended, the reason Bubba Wallace was suspended, should be the reason why Austin Hill should be suspended. It's a precedent. It's the same thing with the waivers.
I get that.
Now, I'm not saying that because it's Cole Custer. Like I said,
right.
It's not a Stewart-Haas thing. I'd feel the same way no matter who it was.
Right. Exactly.
So I think Austin Hill just the moment got the better of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he proved that to NASCAR, which is why he got 25,025 points.
Right.
Because they probably brought him into the big holler and said, "Give me one damn good reason why we're not suspending you next week."
Right. Exactly.
And he may have pulled a me and just talked his way out of it.
Right.
Or he may have just sat there and said, "I throw myself on the throne of NASCAR. Please save me." I don't know.
Exactly.
But personally, I think NASCAR set the precedent, good, bad, or ugly,
mm-hmm.
that he should have been suspended.
Right.
And I think 25 and 25 was the middle ground
mm-hmm.
of we can't let you get away with that. That
right.
cannot be allowed. You cannot. I don't care what level of racing you are. You cannot turn left and wreck a driver.
No. And,
with intent.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I mean, crap happens on a racetrack.
Right. Exactly. Now, this isn't Hill's first incident. I mean, there's been several others from what I can see. I mean, there's been, many of them I can't bring up one in my head, but I know there's been several others. Are you surprised that with his history that he just got the fine?
Well, I think that might have been part of the surprising the whole thing of there's a precedence for him to be suspended. This is a quote repeat offender. He probably should have been suspended. So this might be a situation of where the points docking came in.
Gotcha.
The fine is always going to be there. I mean, for heaven's sake, like you said, Stenhouse got $75,000. All he did was throw a punch.
Right.
He raced 2 laps, threw a punch, lost $75,000.
Yeah.
That's a bad day.
It is a bad day, especially when there's $1 million on the line.
Right. I mean, he lost his chance at $1 million. He wrecked a $150,000 race car. He got fined $75,000 and threw one punch.
Right.
So
bad night. Bad night.
Bad night.
I've had those types of nights.
And we all. So when you think about Austin Hill in that situation, with intent, I'm not gonna call it premeditation. He just got caught in the heat of the moment. But he did have intent. Intent to wreck, intent to harm the racing moment of Cole Custer. So that not bodily harm. I don't think anybody. I don't think he wished him any harm as a human being. But he definitely wanted that race car gone.
Exactly.
So I think all that together is where the $25,000 was for the intent, and I think the 25 points was as a repeat offender. Now, I think he should have been suspended a race, but that's just me.
Yeah, and 25 points. That's almost as good as getting a suspension as far as the points go.
Right. I mean, for Austin Hill, in theory, that's a race,
right?
Because if you finish, let's say you finish second, you're going to get, what was that, 40, 48, 45?
Right.
Yeah, so 25 points off of that takes you down to 20. That's like 30th, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
Give or take. I mean, I'd have to look at the points table up.
Right.
But yeah, it's like the difference between finishing second and 30th.
Right. So, all right. Well, Eric, thank you for joining me today. It's been a wonderful conversation. It's been great talking NASCAR with you again. We haven't done it in quite a while. We did it for
too long.
I think it was 55 episodes of NASCAR Racing Weekly, and it's been great having you back.
I appreciate it, man. This was fun. You holler at me anytime we want to talk about anything.
All right, man. Well, thank you again. If you like this video, give us a like. If you like what we're doing overall, hit that subscribe button with the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And we will see you in the next video.